Oh my gosh, I could almost not stand not reading ahead. Even though I've read it before, I still really want to remember what happens. Let's find out what Odysseus's plan is. We'll see if it's the same as the plan you came up with yesterday. It's pretty creative. After many terrible hours, the light of dawn crept through the cracks at the mouth of the cave. Odysseus watched the Cyclops open his eye, then heave himself up from the ground. The giant lit a fire and milked his goats. When he was done with his chores, he snatched up two more Greeks. The terrified warriors again begged for Zeus to help them, but as before, the mighty god did not heed their cries. Odysseus and his men watched the monster smash their two comrades against a stone wall, then devour them for breakfast. The Greeks reeled at the horror of the sight. Again, Odysseus felt a murderous rage toward the monster, but again he fought to conceal it. After his gory meal, Polyphemus rolled away the boulder from the mouth of the cave. He called for his flock and led them out into the sunlight. Then he rolled the mighty rock back against the entrance, trapping the Greeks inside. They could hear the monster whistling as he drove his goats and sheep down the mountain slope. Odysseus and his men were sickened by the gruesome murder of their friends. The men moaned and wept, but Odysseus ordered them to be silent. "Weeping will not save us," he said. "We must make a plan." His men were too distraught to think clearly, so Odysseus paced about the cave alone, searching for a way to destroy the giant. Peering about the shadowy cave, Odysseus caught sight of the giant's club. Made from fresh green olive wood, the club was as tall as the mast of a 20-oared trading ship. Odysseus seized the club and chopped off a 6-foot stake. He ordered his men to carve the wood into a spike. When they were done, he honed one end until it was razor sharp. "Now let us draw lots to see who will help me," he said. The men drew lots, and 4 were chosen to help. Odysseus told them his plan. Then he hid the stake in the shadows of the cave. "All we can do now is wait," he said. His men huddled together like frightened children, but as Odysseus sat and stared at the entrance of the cave, his heart grew cold and hard. Finally, he heard the awful whistling of the monster, then the bleating of sheep. The huge rock was rolled away. Sunlight streamed into the cave. Flocks of sheep and goats bounded in. The one-eyed giant lumbered behind them. Once all were inside, Polyphemus again rolled the boulder against the mouth of the cave. Without even a glance at the Greeks, he stoked his fires and set about milking the goats. The Cyclops finished his chores. Then, just as suddenly as before, he grabbed 2 more men. He bashed them against the stone floor and ate them for supper. When he finished his meal of flesh and bone, the one-eyed giant grinned horribly at the remaining Greeks. Odysseus's men cried out in terror before the bloody monster. Odysseus himself trembled with fury, but he forced himself to smile. He rose calmly and picked up his wineskin. With a steady hand, he poured sweet red wine into a wooden bowl. "Here, sir," he said, offering the bowl to the Cyclops. "Please drink our good wine. I give it to you as a gift with the hope that you will take pity on us and help us find our way home." The giant snatched the bowl from Odysseus and gulped down the wine. When he was done, he held out the bowl and thundered, "More, more, more, more!" Odysseus poured more wine into the bowl, and Polyphemus gulped it all down. "More!" the monster bellowed. "More, and tell me your name." Odysseus filled the bowl a 3rd time. The giant poured it down his throat. Then he put the bowl down and began to stagger about the cave. Odysseus saw that the wine had gone to the giant's head. He knew it would soon be time to act. "Sir, you have asked me for my name," said Odysseus. "I will give it to you as a gift, but you must give me a gift in return. My name is No One. That is what everyone calls me. No One." The giant laughed cruelly. "Ha ha ha ha! It's my best cruel laugh. "No one," he said. "Thank you for your gift. Now I will give you a gift in return. It is this. I will eat you and all your men, but I will eat you last. That is my gift to you, no one. Ha ha ha!" As he laughed, the giant lost his balance. He staggered back a few steps. Then he slid down the stone wall and crashed to the ground. His huge head drooped to one side. His eye closed and he began to snore. The giant's snores were so thunderous that all the milk pails rattled throughout the cave. Odysseus moved quickly. He jammed the sharpened end of the stake into the burning embers. He beckoned to his men to stand near him. Then he pulled the stake from the fire. "Help us, O Zeus," Odysseus prayed. The mighty god finally seemed to hear his prayer. As Odysseus took a deep breath, he felt a surge of strength and power. Odysseus gave a sign. Then all together the men raised the stake and rammed its burning point into the giant's huge bulging eye. Gross, huh? The Cyclops let out a piercing howl. The eye hissed and sizzled. The Greeks let go of the stake and fled to the corners of the cave. Polyphemus pulled the spike from his eye and hurled it away from him. Blinded and groaning with pain, he fell to the floor of his cave. He bellowed for help. All the other Cyclopes who lived on the island hurried over the dark rocks and gathered outside the cave. "What ails you, Polyphemus?" one shouted. "Why do you break the stillness of the night with your cries? Who harms you?" Ready for it? "No one!" Polyphemus shouted, writhing on the floor of his cave. "No one tried to kill me. No one blinded me." "Well, if no one has harmed you, you must be ill," said the other Cyclopes. "And when Zeus makes one of us ill, the others can offer no help." With no further talk, all the Cyclopes turned away and lumbered back to their own caves. Odysseus felt laughter rise in his throat. His bold trick had worked. Growling with rage, the giant felt along the walls with his huge hands, searching for the rock that sealed up the cave. When he found it, he pushed it away. Odysseus was overjoyed. He and his men would soon be free. But before they could flee, the blinded Cyclops sat down in the open mouth of the cave and stretched out his huge arms. The monster grew very still. He was waiting to capture the first Greek who tried to escape. Oh my gosh, they had such a good plan. I wonder if it will still work. Here's what I want you to do. On the next slide, I'm going to ask you to write a summary of this chapter. I want you to tell me the important parts. I'm going to give you a reminder of what we find in a summary, and then I want you to write one. Tell me the important things that happened in this chapter. Then go to the following slide and listen to the story of Polyphemus's curse. Ooh, sounds interesting.